Welcome to the Investor Success Podcast. I am Jim Ingersoll, and I'm excited that you joined me today. This show was created for real estate entrepreneurs, beginning investors, experienced investors, and veteran investing businesses, all looking to grow their cash flow and long-term equity as well. My name is Jim Ingersoll, and I'm your host today. Welcome back to all of our success listeners that are loyally going through all of our episodes. It is wonderful to have you back. Appreciate everybody who's been leaving me some reviews in iTunes and iHeartRadio and stuff like that. I created this podcast several months ago to motivate and inspire you to invest in real estate the right way and enjoy the many benefits of being an entrepreneur, focusing on closing many real estate deals. We have an outstanding show for you today, and we're going to talk about what it takes to create a great investing business, including leadership, systems, people, and your culture. And your culture includes employees, it includes your contractors, it includes your entire network, really. So welcome to the show with us today, Gary Harper.
All right, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, it's great to hang out with you. I really appreciate it. Gary, I want to start off with this quote from Dave Ramsey, who's somebody I really like. I used to like him only because I believed in debt-free living, but I've also come to really like his take on leadership. So this kind of kicks right into high gear what we're going to talk about today. So let me read it to you.
Okay.
He said, organizations fail because they lack clear goals and focus. They run down too many rabbit trails, which I've done, and they lose sight of how they became successful in the first place. In other words, they tend to just ignore their darn mission statement. But any long-term successful organization will have a rock-solid vision clearly spelled out in their mission statement. It seems, Gary, that a lot of real estate entrepreneurs trying to go from just a few deals a year to a legitimate business would like to shortcut this piece on their journey. So my question to you is, as we kick off here today, does vision and core value stuff, does it really work, and is it needed for investing-based businesses? What do you think?
Well, Jim, I think it's a great quote, first of all. Second of all, I think that people don't just shortcut it. They go right past it altogether. When you look at the four quadrants in business, and people start out as employees in the four quadrants, and they move down to entrepreneurs, and that's typically where a lot of people in investing stay. They stay as the entrepreneur, and they really don't make that shift over into a business. And this is one of the reasons why. I mean, they don't develop a core vision for their company, core values, long and short-term goals, and so therefore they just lack direction. And I call it the maze effect. Mm-hmm. They're just running through a maze. They really have no clue where they're going. Nobody's taking a ladder, climbing to the top, and giving it clear vision and focus. And so they just run through the maze without any focus at all.
So you call that the maze effect. I like that, and I like the way you said nobody takes the ladder and climbs to the top for that perspective, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what a company needs. In order for a company to have success, to push past the glass ceiling of hitting the ceiling, they have to climb to the top, and they have to look out and go, okay, which way are we going? And somebody, usually the visionary, somebody, usually the entrepreneur that started the company that had the vision and wanted to see that company grow to a success. That's typically the person that's doing that. And so what happens in real estate investing is we get so wrapped up in just making money that we don't treat it like a real business. And so many of us are out there running around and we're treating it just like a hobby or treating it like a side job. And we're not really treating it like a business. And a business, we go from entrepreneur to business. A business is gonna have core values. It's gonna have structure. It's gonna have a mission. It's gonna have long and short-term goals. There's gonna be accountability. And you're going to have people focused on that vision. And they're all going to be pulling together. You're going to have one voice, one vision, one structure, one system.
All right. And I know you've been out there doing consulting and helping people with this, but a lot of people that have come out of corporate America like I did understand that you've got all this place. Say, Ford is quality is job one and whatever else. General Electric and all of them have their mission statements, their core values and stuff in place. But real estate entrepreneurs are trying to figure out what this looks like. So based on your consulting experience working with investing businesses around the country, give us some examples of what people are coming up with for their core values, short-term goals, long-term goals, and things like that.
Yeah, I want to jump right into that. I want to say this, though. I mean, the bottom line in this is if you can't picture yourself in your own mind being extremely successful, dominating your market, and run a phenomenal business, then the chances are that you never will. So if you can't picture that in your mind and be able to put that down on paper, you're never going to reach those goals. So first thing is, I challenge every investor listening to this podcast today to have a vision in their mind. And if they can't picture in their mind of how they're going to dominate their areas or their space, then it's just not going to happen. And then the first thing I would recommend to companies is understanding what your company's vision is. What is your 10-year target? And 10-year targets, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal that we want to try to achieve. It's sometimes, that pie in the sky kind of goal, but it's something we have to have out there. Sometimes it's our why. It's why we do what we do. And so in 10 years from now, what does that look like for you? Pepsi wants to dominate their market. They want to crush Coke, and there's so many different companies out there that have a 10-year focus. And I'll tell you, what my brother-in-law, Wayne Schaefer, his 10-year goal is to be able to give $2.6 million. And so really what I see that 10-year goal being is that individual, that entrepreneur, the leader that started the company. What is their why? Why did they start the business? All right. And then from there, they're gonna take that 10-year goal, and they're gonna try to break it down to a 3 to 5 year goal, and they're gonna try to make that a little bit more obtainable. So based off of where they are today, they're going to try to put a structure in place that helps them reach a 3-year goal. And then from there, they're going to back that down into a 1-year goal. And that goal is a more realistic goal. That's taking where you are today, multiplying it your month by 12 in order to try to have a more realistic, attainable goal. And then from there, we actually try to set quarterly goals in order to help us get to that 1-year target. Does that make sense?
It does to me, yeah. I've been doing it right along, so I agree with you. But how do real estate entrepreneurs begin to make that gap, bridge the gap when they start working with you and they say, well, I don't know what I want to do in 10 years. I can't even see 10 minutes down the road. All I know is one deal to one deal to one deal to one deal.
Yeah.
So how do you help coach them through that?
So that's a point that I call the turning point. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's a turning point for somebody not wanting to be an entrepreneur or a solopreneur is what I call it, and then wanting to take that turning point to be really a real business. And then it starts to click. They're like, hey, this I don't want just this to be a hobby anymore. I want this to be a full functioning business. I want to achieve goals. I want to have a mission. I want to have core values. And so what I do is I usually come in and I have a 2-day planning session with them and people on their team to help them to put those targets in place. So whether it's a 10-year, whether it's the 3-year, the 1-year, the quarterly goals, we want to come away with a good, clear picture, a clear vision that is agreed upon by all and everybody's willing to follow. And we have many different exercises that we try to draw that out. And I try to facilitate that. Usually, I find the answers are right there in the room, Jim, and it's at the heart of that entrepreneur. And when you drill down and you draw that out, he's usually already she's already attracted people in their organization that share in a very similar core values and core goals.
So, is putting this together possible for somebody who wants to grow a wholesaling business or grow a fix and flip business?
Well, I say it's not only possible. I think if you're going to dominate your market, you have to. Mm-hmm. If you don't have clear vision and you don't have clear structure, then you're just practicing. You really don't have anything at that point. And you're like that person in that maze. You're not really knowing where you're going to go, what your next step is, and then the frustration sets in. The frustration of working in the day to day, every day, and just putting out fires. You're never really being proactive. You're really never working on your business to scale it and make it better. You're basically putting out fires every day, and you're working in your business every day. And then essentially, Jim, all we're doing is being employees at that point. Mm-hmm. We're employees to ourselves.
Yeah, I don't want that. I know you don't either. So
Right.
if somebody out there has got a fix and flip business or a wholesaling business, what are some data that they really should be tracking to grow those types of businesses in particular? What have you seen that works pretty well for, say, wholesaling or fix and flip? Somebody who wants to generate a lot of income.
Right. So one of the parts of the vision is to be able to identify your KPIs, what I
Oh
call key
yeah.
performance indicators. Some companies call them dashboards, some companies call them scorecards. And you know what? Those are the numbers in which that you're trying to, if you were on an island all by yourself and somebody handed you this sheet of paper and it had all these numbers in your business, it's going to tell you whether or not your business is working right or not. And so it comes down to, it's unique to each individual business. But if you were in a fix and flip company, maybe you'd want to know, based on your goals for that year, how many you're wanting to fix and flip, how many have you done that week, or how many do you have lined up to purchase, how many houses you have lined up to purchase, versus how many are you in the process of rehabbing right now, versus how many that you have lined up to sell with a realtor or to your buyers list. So these are your key performance indicator numbers that are going to help you manage your business without actually working in the business.
Okay.
And
So you and I both come out of manufacturing, right?
yeah,
And we both have this thing called a black belt, right?
mm-hmm. Yep,
And so in the manufacturing world, in like for lean, we used to have this thing called tact rate. That was like your rhythm of your, and I relate that back to real estate. Like that is my deal flow, the rhythm. How
mm-hmm.
often do I need a deal? And I mean, so if you wanted 4 deals a month, that would be a rhythm of I've got to have one deal every single week. I've
Right.
got to finish and buy one house every week and close. Okay. And that would give you a rate of like 52 deals in a year, which is a substantial amount, especially if you're going to fix and flip. You can build a good business around that rate of rhythm. But then you got to work backwards. Like, what else do you need besides one deal? Oh, I need, say, $150,000 of private funding every week also. I also
Yep.
need a roof. I need a roofing contractor, a siding contractor, somebody to do my kitchens, my demo, my electrical, my HVAC. So you got to start like building it backwards is how I sort of see this. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you got to start with where your end goal is, and then you got to work backwards. You got to work downstream from there to identify what are the numbers that are going to help you reach that target. And so if you don't hit these certain numbers, like you indicated, then you're not going to hit your long-term goal. And those are the numbers that we try to identify with every company, so that when they look at that and they review it on a weekly basis, they know whether or not they're on target to meet their 1 year goal.
So with a fix and flip business, if you average, say, a gross profit of $25,000 a flip, which is doable in many markets, some are a lot higher, some are a little lower, depending where you're at in the United States. If you're doing one per month right now and you want to go to 3 or 4 or 5 per month, you could take your gross profit from like 25,000 to 100,000 in a month. But you're
Right.
not going to get there if you don't do these pieces of the puzzle. That's why I invited you on, Gary, because there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I can flip houses. It doesn't work like it does on HGTV. We all know that. But if you take it from a systematic perspective of what you need to go from one a month to 3 or 4 or 5 a month, you can get there if you follow these steps, right?
Yeah, so I think one key component that we're really kind of missing out on here is understanding the process that it takes
Ah,
to do
yes.
each one of those.
You read my
And
mind.
so, and so, what I try to do to help investors, especially investors, because that's kind of my core focus, is helping real estate investors.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, I worked with a gentleman named Max out of Texas, and you know
Mm-hmm.
Max,
Oh, yeah.
and he wants to do just that. He wants to scale his business. He wants to go from being a solopreneur to an entrepreneur and to an actual business. And in order to do that, he's got to get the processes that are in his head today, how he understands it, that he knows is working, from marketing for leads to closing the deal A to B to fix and flipping the property to closing it B to C. He's got to get those processes out of his head. Now, what I find, Jim, is most investors are pretty successful if they're still in the game at what they do. So they have a pretty good product. They know how to get the house. they get it at the right price, they fix and flip it, then they sell it off, they make their profit and they move on. In most cases, that they're pretty successful at that. Now, what I find is they're not always productive at it. Okay, and it's not always scalable for them because it's taking up way too much of their time. So what I want to try to do with people like that is come in and document what I call their as-is process, the way they have it today. And then from there, we take that as-is process and we're looking at it and we're going, okay, from doing our marketing to getting the lead in, that's the process for marketing for leads. And so when that lead comes in, then I take it, I work the lead, and then I buy the property, and that's the A to B. And then now I'm going to fix and flip the property. And so all these steps that go into fix and flipping the property with the contractors and maybe getting private money or working with lenders or working with contractors, all that's a part of the fix and flip process. And then now the property's fixed up and it's ready to be marketed, and now we have our marketing process. And maybe that's using a realtor, maybe that's for sale by owner, whatever that is. But what we want to try to do is document each one of those processes as is. And then from there, what I want to do is I want to look at the process, and now I want to reduce any waste in the process. I want to reduce any rework in the process. I'm looking at ways to streamline the process. Is there too many steps? Or maybe there's not enough steps. Maybe there's not enough quality points in there, and it's causing pain in the process, or single points of failure, what I call single points of failure, where we have it's a bottleneck. And it's causing delay in the process. And what we want to do, Jim, is we want to try to nail all that down and make that process as productive and as lean as possible. And then from there, we want to create a should-be map. And that should-be map is the way we're going to do it going forward, right? And so now we've got this leaned out, lean, mean machine of a process, and now that's scalable. Because now I can take that process and I can train somebody else to do it.
So it's like what it looks like today, and then what you want it to look like in the future.
Right. And then we from there we try to implement whatever changes we need to make that should be map, an actual current state map, something we can use today. And then once we have that, now we start to replicate it. Mm-hmm. Now we can make it scalable. And then from there, we can start to hire people. We can bring people on board. We now got the process out of our head. We can start to scale our business. We can start training people the way we want it done, the way we've done it, and the way that it works. And that kind of takes the fear away. The fear of, can they do it as good as me? Are they going to be as effective as me? And then from there, I mean, really the sky's the limit, because we identify with process maps who's responsible for it in the organization. We also identify how long it should take to get it done, what the turnaround time is on it, and accountability is added to it at that point. And it's Gino Wickman in his book on traction talks about.
Great book.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book. But he says if you don't get your processes out of your head, then you can't scale your business. And that's what we try to do with investors. I think every investor out there, if they took time to actually work on their business instead of in their business, they would be able to cross that barrier, that glass ceiling of going from a solopreneur into a business owner. And it doesn't take quite the time I think that they think it takes. I typically start with 6 to 8 to 10 core processes and get those documented, and you'd be surprised what that does for a company.
Okay, so I'll skip the A to B section about lead generation, but I want to focus for a second on the B to C of fix and flip, because I've been working on this myself, and I've got a project manager that helps me run my jobs. So I put it all onto one sheet of paper for him. I got it out of my head, like you said, and I created basically an exteriors rehab section, a trades section, and an interior section. So the exterior section would be like roof, siding, windows. The trades would be like electrical, HVAC, plumbing, the rough in, if you're adding bathrooms and you got permits and other junk in there. And then the interior section would include things like demo, framing, drywall, finish, trim, doors, paint, hardware, kitchen, finish your bathroom, stuff like that. And what I did is I took it out of my head, I put it onto the paper, I gave it to my project manager, and it's helping him remove gaps out of our schedule, because time is money on these rehabs. It really is very important that you have speed, quality, and cost. All three are important.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that if I eliminate the gaps in my rehab schedule, I can get through my jobs a lot faster. What common question people ask me all the time, Gary, is like, how did you do all of that work so fast? Well, it's because I took it out of my head, I put it on a piece of paper, and I trained my project manager how to do it. So we
Mm-hmm.
eliminate the gaps. So there are people working on the house every day until it's done, and that's it. It's that simple. If anybody's listening to this and they want a copy of that paper that I've got, you can email me, and I will email it back to you. I've never done this in a podcast, so it's something new. But you can email me, jim@investingnownetwork.com, and I'll send it to you because it's really helped us speed up our rehabs. And if you want to do a lot of rehabs in a year, you've got to be able to get through them reasonably fast, get rid of the waste. Like Gary said a minute ago, that waste is critical to get rid of. And the way you get rid of it is taking the process from your head and putting it onto a sheet of paper. And then you got the C to D at the end. I agree with you.
Yep.
Now you work in a high volume wholesaling business as well, right?
Yeah, so I work with, I came on board with Wayne Schaefer
Yep.
About 4 years ago, and my main role was to come on to help him implement processes and procedures in order to help him scale the business. We started off with about 3 or 4 employees. Tom Olson is a part of that group as well. He was already on board when I came, and through process documentation and process mapping, we've been able to scale the business to a little over 30 employees right now. And we actually are target to do over 320 deals this year, and we just hit 100 deals in 100 days.
Right. And I'm
So
going to
that
have Wayne on to talk about that because think about that. Everyone, all of our success listeners are like, OMG, 100 deals in 100 days. I mean, that you've got to have streamlined processes and a great team to pull that off, right, Gary?
Yeah, like I said earlier, there's just it's impossible to have 100 deals in 100 days in case you've documented your process and you have the resources and the people on your team in order to help you achieve it. Because obviously Wayne alone couldn't do 100 deals in 100 days. So when he started this business, he did 30, 40 houses in a year. So for him to be able to do over 300 houses this year and do 100 houses in 100 days, he absolutely had to get the processes out of his head, lean out the process so that it's more effective, and then be able to share that process with his employees and make sure that they followed it to the letter that he instructed. And through that, he's been able to scale the business and have the success he's had. So it's so important. And so many people say, I just don't have time. And what I would challenge you to say is, what's important to you, you'll make time for.
Yeah, I
if
agree.
you really, really want to scale your business, you've got to make time for this. And we're not talking, Jim. We're not talking 40 hours a week here. What we do with Wayne's company is we have Foundational Friday, where we spend 2 hours on Friday documenting processes.
Yep.
And it's just taking a bite at a time. It's not like you have to accomplish this all at once. I believe Max started with his business about 5.5 weeks ago, and he just finished this week, and he's implementing his processes into an automation tool called Podio, which many of you guys are familiar with. And it's just going to streamline his business. It's going to take him out of working in his business and working on it. And I'm so excited for him. And I think so many of our investors listening to this podcast today have that opportunity.
You've been working your way through. You've been working your way through my entire coaching and mastermind group. Have you noticed? Because you're also working with Mo, right?
Right. So Mo asked me to come in and help him with his business systems, and we're about ready to start on his process management here shortly.
All right. Well, you mentioned Podio, so tell everybody a little bit about Podio. You're great at it. I know you don't have capacity to help people in general, but why is Podio important, and how does it integrate into all these things we're talking about today?
So what I like to do is I like to start with business systems because it's the foundation of how we do what we do, right? And then part of business systems is having the right people in the right seats in your organization, collecting the right data, which is what we talked about with the scorecard. And then going from there to issue solving, having a healthy, organized company, and then from there, process management. And we talked a little bit about process management today and process mapping. that's all the foundation, and then having the right tools and the right types of meetings in your organization. And then from there, we really drill into the process management part of it, documenting the processes, leaning them out. And here's where the beauty happens. Now that you have all that in place, you use automation tools like Podio. Podio is an online cloud-based automation tool. You can build your processes and your company infrastructure out in it, and it allows you to help streamline your processes and add accountability to your processes by moving the process through each step and notifying the right parties involved in order to accomplish what needs to happen in the time frame that it needs to happen. Automatically. It does need integration with like GlobiFlow and Zapier to work properly for the way we use it, but definitely worth the investment and the time spent to build it out. I typically, at that point, after I've helped people identify it for process management, is I typically push it to my my friends at J&D Automation.
And Gary, give an example of how Podio is used for, say, lead management, just so people can sort of picture it in their mind.
So a lot of, different people use it in different ways. Basically, the way we use it is we have used Zapier to connect with Infusionsoft.
Wow.
And so Infusionsoft will help you actually, with squeeze pages, landing pages, and then building your CRM. And then as a lead comes in, the lead goes into Podio. Podio notifies sales. Sales then gets a task to follow up on the lead. They're asked to do it within a certain time frame because we've identified that SLA, that service level agreement, that it's got to be followed up within a certain amount of time. So the lead comes into the salesperson. If the lead is not followed up within a certain amount of time, the sales manager then gets notified, hey, this lead hasn't been taken care of yet. So accountability is in place. But ultimately what happens is the sales manager is going to make sure that that lead gets followed up on in that time frame. The call comes back in, or the call goes out. The lead is then vetted, and then actions are marked off in Podio, indicating that the salesperson has done their job by vetting the lead. And if it's a house that wants to be acquired at that point, then our acquisition department is notified, and comps are run, proposals are generated right in Podio, and then a meeting scheduled with that prospect. And that's all happening within the time frame that was established when the process maps were documented.
And it's all automated and pulls everything back together. I mean, Podio's got an amazing amount of capacity, or capability rather, and that's why real estate investors that are growing are jumping onto Podio quite a bit, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it's a good tool for everybody to put it right into your toolbox.
And it integrates so well. I mean, with some of the tools like Zapier, you can integrate with Infusionsoft. You can integrate with Ring Central. You can integrate with a lot of different tools that so many investors are using today. And so it pulls that information right in, tracks it. And what's even cooler about it is you can create a dashboard right in there. We talked about those KPIs. And it pulls that information and automatically tracks it all for you. So it limits the amount of time you actually have to spend, documenting who called and how many people called.
The KPIs are key process indicators, right?
I call them key performance indicators, key process indicators, same thing. Yep. And like I said, some people call them dashboard items, but they're usually 5 to 15 main numbers that you need in order to run your business.
Yeah, and think about it. I mean, if you don't keep score, you're never going to win. And you'll never know how your performance is, whether you're getting better or getting worse or whatever. It's super, super important when you begin to build your business that way. Gary, if somebody's interested in getting a hold of you to talk more about process mapping and systems and core visions and things, what's the best way to do it?
You can email me at gharper@sharperprocess.com. I also have a Facebook page as well, Sharper Business Solutions. Now, Jim, one thing I want to say, and a lot of your members have been to this, but we actually have at Wayne's company, Good Success, we have an upcoming event in March. And that event is March 22nd, 23rd. You can go to goodsuccessacademy.com for that. I'm going to be speaking at that event. we're also going to have Podio Dave. We call him Podio Dave because he's a Podio expert. But we're going to have Podio Dave there, and he's going to have a presentation as well. And we're going to talk 2 days regarding about the culture, how Wayne's business scaled up. We'll have some sessions on there about mindset. We're also going to have some cool or some really good presentations on finance and acquisitions methods, sales, just all kinds of really good nuggets. You can find out more about that on goodsuccessacademy.com. But here's the really cool thing. By the way, the cost of that's $24.99. It's nominal fee for what the value you're going to get. And then day 3 is an optional day 3. Day 3, we're actually going to do a process day where we're actually going to teach process mapping that day.
Awesome.
And so we're going to pick one lucky person to actually put their process up, and we're all as a group going to process map it out, look for ways for it to improve it, reduce waste, rework, things like that. And it's just going to bring a lot of value. And so if somebody's sitting out on the call today and they're listening, they go, hey, well, how do I start? Where do I do? Well, we believe, this is kind of our tagline. We believe if you can come see how we've done it, you'll believe you can do it too.
And this is called the Belief Event, right?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm going to believe that I'm going to get myself there. So
all right, sounds good.
Maybe talk, and maybe I can do some teaching for you or something.
That would be great.
I would love that. Yes, I highly recommend that. So GHARPER at sharperprocess.com.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll put that in the show notes as well. Well, that's it for this very special episode of the Investor Success Podcast. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I am Jim Ingersoll, and I appreciate your checking us out today. I'm also the founder of the Investor Success Mastermind, where I love the challenge of helping entrepreneurs grow their investing businesses. You can learn more about us at investorsuccessmastermind.com. I've also got a free download for you. It's a swipe file for contractors and rehabbing houses. You can go to bigmoneynvestor.com/fix-flip and pick that up. And it's been really nice having you along today, Gary. We talked about some things that the real estate gurus and nobody else ever talks about. Core values, vision, goals, process mapping, Podio, and systems. So thank you very much for that.
Jim, it's always great to talk to you, and I definitely appreciate you having me on the call today, and I hope your listeners get value out of our call. And if they have any questions, obviously they can call out to me. And I will offer up to your group, anybody listening to you, I do offer a 90-minute free consultation.
Wow.
So I'll offer that up to your group today, Jim, for allowing me to be on the call.
Outstanding. All right, Gary, have a great one. Thanks for joining the Investor Success Podcast today.
Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends and social media contacts, and visit us online at www.bigmoneynvestor.com.